I'm Councilmember Jose Huizar, Chair of Plum, and I was told my colleague, oh yeah, he is in. I've been joined by Councilmember Mitch Englander, and we could go to item number 9, the Director of Planning report, and Mr. Logrand, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, Mike LeGrand, Director of Planning. Just a quick report. We're very excited to see a number of commission appointments come through on today's agenda, and we'll be happy to work with those commissioners on getting acclimated into their new positions, and we're excited to see those appointments going forward. Another item, we've had some very successful meetings of recently, and continuing that, we'll have the mural ordinance, I believe, tomorrow at City Council. So we're excited to see that work program move forward. In addition, the department's been very active in seeking input on the development reform consolidation of the planning and building departments, portions of the development services and Department of Transportation and Bureau of Engineering. We've hired the consulting firm Matrix, and they've been doing a number of stakeholder outreach meetings, and they'll be starting that process with external stakeholders very shortly, and we look forward to reporting back to Council on how that's been going in the next few weeks, I believe the end of August. In addition, the department had a really successful meeting regarding our health and wellness chapter of the general plan. We had an expert panel convene at the California Endowment with people from county health as well as experts in the field of healthcare, livability, and urban planning. And we had a great forum, and I'm happy to report that it was well attended, and we got some really good feedback and enlightenment on our work in the area of health and livability. That concludes my report, and I'll be here for the meeting to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you very much. So we'll now go to item number 1.
Yes, Councilman. Item 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. Hector Serrano Jr. to the Harbor Area Planning Commission.
Mr. Serrano. Welcome, and thank you, Mr. Serrano, for your willingness to serve on the Harbor Area Planning Commission. And we see here from your background you have a master's degree in public administration from the University of Arkansas and a bachelor of sociology from UC Santa Barbara. You've been involved with the Compton Chamber of Commerce and particularly involved in public health and education, and we're just interested to hear from you and your interest in serving on this commission.
Oh, absolutely. I am interested. I'm very excited. When Eric Garcetti, the mayor, appointed me for the Harbor Planning Commission, it was a great opportunity because I worked very hard through this campaign, and not only through the campaign, but actually helping out my community in Wilmington. I'm a very strong advocate for the community of Wilmington. I've been going door to door, talking to residents, talking about the issues because I really want to improve my community. A lot of people say that Wilmington is not the place to grow up, but it's really what you make out of it. A lot of people doubted me and with my life as far as me going to school or pursuing a master's degree. I remember in 2004, I told my high school teacher that in 2012 I'm going to come back with my master's degree done. And I made that happen, ladies and gentlemen. And my message to the Wilmington community and the entire community as far as working class communities is just that it's possible as long as you take action. We're all creators one way or the other. That's why we have the mind, to think of what we want, our vision, and then the body to take us to where we want to get to. I'm not going to give up on the communities, Wilmington or even San Pedro, Harbor Gateway, Harbor City, including Watts. But I'm very passionate about this. I've been in the volunteer service for the fire department as well. My family, my brother, he's a fireman. My sister, she's a social worker. And my sister, she's going for medical school to become a doctor. So I guess it's in my genes to go on in public service.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Serrano? Okay. Okay. Good.
For his commitment to join us and solve the problems of the city.
Thank you. Mr. Englander?
No, thank you as well. Did you get an opportunity to meet with council member of the district as well?
My district?
Of the where do
Harbor.
you live in the harbor, correct area?
Yes, we live in Wilmington. Yes, I met with Joe Buscano.
Oh, you did.
Yes,
okay, that's
the
right.
city
I didn't see that here. Okay.
We call him Joey B around here.
Joey B. Sometimes Steve, depending on that's another story.
Okay.
That's
Councilmember Busquet.
Council member.
That's only the council president could call him Joey B. That's.
right. Excellent. No, thank you very much.
Okay. no
And one
problem.
final question. This has nothing to have to do with your appointment, and for the record, nothing having to do with my vote for this, but Serrano, my mother's maiden name is Serrano. Where are your parents from, or where are you from? Or
You know, we have. My mom grew up in Zacatecas. She's so, and my father too. So.
oh, you're from Zacatecas? You are?
You know, I was reading about your background when I was in your office too. I was saying you had a big encyclopedia of Zacatecas, so I thought that was kind of interesting. That had me a curiosity of, okay, why Jose Huizar has a big book. So once I started reading about you, I read that you grew up in Zacatecas, right? You
Yes,
were
I
born
did.
there.
Yeah. So we're probably related because it's a small state. And I thought you looked like my mother's side of the family too. So anyway, yeah, we probably are related. Interesting. Well, thank you, and thank you for your willingness to serve. And I'm sure either the mayor's office and or the city clerk's office will help guide you to the next steps. Do we have a scheduled date for full council on this?
Yes, Councilman, it's August the 27th.
August 27th. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Any
you, everybody.
objection to moving this item forward to full council? No objections, so ordered. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item, council members, is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Samantha Millman to the Central LA Planning Commission.
Thank you. Well, welcome, and thank you for your willingness to serve. You have a background as a vice president of Milco Investments, a privately held real estate investment firm in Los Angeles, and on the board of directors and co-chair of the new leadership council for Betzadec Legal Services and other community service. So thank you for not only your willingness to serve on this commission, but your other community service. We had a great conversation yesterday. I enjoyed our discussion. You're very insightful, I think, in terms of the planning issues facing not only the area of the Central Area Planning Commission, but also citywide. So I really appreciate your insightfulness, and I think for me, with your willingness to, and how you could appreciate to make sure that every case that comes before us deserves the attention that not only the applicant, but the public would expect that we give it in making our determinations and decisions. So just briefly, if you could tell the council, the committee, and the audience your interest in serving on this commission.
As you can see on my resume, public service is very important to me, community service and giving back to the community in which I live and the greater Los Angeles community. And I believe that serving on this commission is a great way to give back to the city. I believe that I get a lot from living in this city. My family has gotten a lot from living in this city, and it's really an honor to be able to serve in this capacity.
Great. Thank you. And any questions? Mr. Englander?
No questions, but you come highly recommended from a lot of different folks. It's the first time, I think, on an APC where I got a call at home last night lobbying on your behalf to support you from
apologize.
another council member whose district you don't live in and who's not on this committee. So, just, in the interest of full disclosure, a lot of great things to say
Thank you.
from others as well. So, got my support.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Cedillo.
Yes, I would say you have a lot of friends and a lot of supporters who have been very articulate about explaining your attributes. The phrase we like to say from Sacramento is that you're in your mom's arms here, and so I think we're all excited about you joining us. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. So same date, August 27th. So Congratulations, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for your willingness to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
With no objection, we'll move this item forward. Next item, please.
Next item, council members, is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. Filiberto Gonzalez to the North Valley APC.
So welcome, and you're a resident of CD 12.
I am.
Great CD 12.
That's right.
And you have a master's in social work from the University of Southern California, the concentration in community organization, planning, and administration. You're a founder of the CEO Social Impact Consulting, and you also worked for the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation. Well, thank you for your service, and can you share with us as well your interest in serving on this commission, which is the North Valley Area Planning Commission?
That's right. First, thank you all for seeing me today, and my thanks to Mayor Garcetti for this extraordinary opportunity. I'm humbled by the chance to be of service to Chatsworth, Northridge, the neighborhoods that I call home, in CD12 in the city at large, through the North Valley Area Planning Council. As in preparation for this discussion with you all, I looked at what the planning department has online, past agendas, spoken with many who have served in this capacity, and the fact of the matter is this is a serious responsibility. I, if given the chance, will take this very seriously. We'll prepare ardently, and we'll give it the attention that it deserves, because I realize that that you all and the city government as a whole put a good amount of weight into these processes, and I believe the public deserves that. I see myself as a public servant, in that I give at any level that I can. Be it as a volunteer at my child's school or at a local nonprofit. So I am happy to do the same in a different capacity for the city that I call home.
Well, thank you. Any questions, Mr. Englander?
No real questions. We actually got the chance to meet and sit down already, and briefly, and talk for the first time. And we just met, but it's a Northridge area, Chatsworth, the North Valley, in particular, Granada Hills is a very unique, special place in the city of Los Angeles. In fact, I think we have a lot of residents here who've just recently come off a process with the North Valley Area Planning Commission. And where there were a lot of, let's say a lot of interest in protecting and preserving that community in that area, and particularly Sherwood Forest and other areas around there, on some other matters. But it's one that it's very organized. There are more neighborhood councils in the Northwest Valley than any other area of the city. It's got one of the very unique attributes and characters of neighborhood, where you have, on one street, streets aren't paved. If you'll go down one street in areas of Chatsworth and other places, and people like it that way because it's the equestrian, rural lifestyle. And then you go down another street and you've got big lots, and people want to protect a lot of the character and pride of those neighborhoods as well. So one of the things I implore you on is get to know some of those folks who are engaged out there. Oftentimes when issues come up, and they realize, and I think a lot of people have learned that they now go through this process where it goes through an area planning commission. They don't know those people at all, and oftentimes I don't, quite frankly, because the commissioners are appointed by the mayor. And so get to know those folks that are involved and engaged, so you can have those dialogues, not just when they come on, perhaps on heated projects that they may want really to support or oppose.
Thank you.
I want to just point out your resume too, because those who are here from there's a lot of folks here from Northridge on another matter here today. It's extensive what you've done with the community and nonprofits and getting involved in philanthropic efforts, raising your own daughters in the community, your 3 daughters. You've got your hands full. But it's very impressive what you've done not only as a parent, but to continue to do now in the community as a representative of the community, and helping so many others is very impressive, and I congratulate you. We need more people to step up that have done so much as you have, and true leader and inspiration to others. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Cedillo?
No, I was able to meet the candidate many years ago, and so I'm very pleased to see him before us today. It's been a delight to watch his personal and professional growth as a young student leader, and now today as a new civic leader. I'm happy to move and support his nomination.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So it's been moved, and with no objections, we'll also see this in full council on August 27th. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, congratulations. Next item?
Next item, council members, is item 4. It's the communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Renee Dake Wilson to the City Planning Commission.
Great, thank you. Well, welcome, and you are being recommended for the Citywide Planning Commission, which oversees some of our larger projects in the city and overlapping all the council districts. You are principal of Dake Wilson Architects, your own firm. You've been engaged in designing various homes and small commercial, civic, and institutional projects. Very active in the community as well. And we had a great discussion yesterday. And I commented as well, along with the other commissions, the area planning commissions, how this commission is a full load. So we really appreciate all of your commissioners willing to put in the time. It takes a lot to prepare for the cases and the policy decisions that you make. And it's a huge commitment, so we appreciate that. And if you could share with the committee your interest in serving on this commission.
I'm glad to be an architect on the Planning Commission. I feel that representing the built environment and maybe educating the whole room about the issues that are relevant in the physical planning department is a really important voice to have on the Planning Commission. And my practice throughout my career has been from buildings of hundreds of square feet to hundreds of thousands of square feet. And I believe that attention to all of those projects is important, and I'm interested in them. I've also had a lot of involvement in my life in social justice issues, and I think marrying between those two issues and coming between both of those camps is a really important role for our Planning Commission, and I hope to give voice to a wide variety of people and projects.
Great, thank you. Any questions, Mr. Cedillo? Oh, he's going to sneeze. Let me go to Mr. Englander. Mr. Englander, you good? Okay. Mr. Cedillo?
What would you say is your priority, and how does your training and background prepare you for this? And I'm most interested in how we, as a city, can become more efficient and more effective through our planning.
How it can become more efficient and more effective in city planning?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that I received yesterday a large chart of how projects go through the city.
Right.
And that was something I was unable to figure out until I received that chart, which was really helpful. I think streamlining that process would be really helpful. And that I understand the merger of the building and planning departments is coming up. I hope that can not only save time, but also save money. And also make smarter projects. I am a lead AP. I'm interested in environmentalism and all of our projects, which I think our city is doing a great job at improving bike lanes, transit, providing access to parks, and I think that that's something that the Planning Commission can move forward.
Great. Well, thank you. And again, thank you for your willingness to serve. And this item will also be August 27th? No. September 10th. That's a very good day. It's my birthday.
Oh.
September 10th. So
Okay.
We'll both be celebrating that day.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, congratulations. Thank you. And with no objection, we'll send that item forward. Okay. And if we could go on to items number 6 and 7, I failed to, in the beginning of the meeting, ask that those go on consent. The appellant has withdrawn appeal, but we must still act on denying these closed cases. So without objection, we will deny items 6 and 7, and those are consent items, or we could just act on them. Let's do that. We're acting on items 6 and 7 to deny both of those appeals. Mr. Englander, you're okay. We're going to deny both items 6 and 7. They were withdrawn. The appeals were withdrawn, but we still must act on them. Item number 5.
Yes, Councilmember. Item 5 is an appeal by Mayor Salloway. This is a CEQA appeal and also a zone change, and the entitlement requested, which was approved, was a conditional use for a commercial building in CD 12.
Great. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Milena Sasajian with the Department of City Planning. We are here for a project which is for the reconstruction and renovation of a shopping center, which includes some retail, office, and 2 drive-through restaurant uses. The proposed project overall is proposing to reduce the commercial square footage of the site by about 21,000 square feet, and is to reduce the size of the buildings from 2 stories to 1 story. It's generally located at the southeast corner of Nordhoff Street and Reseda Boulevard, which is also a Class 2 major highway. The site is located within a commercial corridor, which runs north-south along Reseda Boulevard. To the east are single-family homes, and then further east of that is Cal State Northridge. The applicant is here on 2 requests. The first one is a zone change from the commercial and parking zones to the TQC21 VL zone. Basically, in order to remove the existing parking zone on the site, which really limits the commercial development to just the building footprints that are existing. The second request is an appeal on conditional use. The APC acted on a conditional use and approved 1 drive-through, and the applicant is appealing in order to allow for 2 drive-throughs. He needs a conditional use because he's located on a commercial property adjacent to an R1 zone. It's just for a 35-foot portion of the eastern property boundary that it abuts the R1 zone. At the May 16th meeting, the North Valley Area Planning Commission recommended approval of the zone change, but only partial approval of the conditional use, and limited the project to just 1 drive-through instead of 2. They primarily cited concerns about traffic and congestion, since Reseda is a major highway and Nordhoff is also a major thoroughfare. They also were concerned about the need for a more pedestrian-friendly commercial center. These concerns were also brought up by the neighborhood council at the public hearing, and they also submitted a petition of neighbors in opposition for the project. The applicant is appealing the APC's decision, and in his appeal stated that the APC acted arbitrarily and without factual basis, since there was a traffic study done for the project, and the traffic study looked at the different intersections nearby and found that there would be no significant impact from the 2 drive-throughs. The appellant also said they have strong community support. They submitted a petition with over 150 signatures in support of the project. The applicant has also submitted revised renderings, which give a little bit more detail about the pedestrian amenities of the site, and I think he gave those to you today. And that's it. If there's any questions, I'm available to answer those.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the planning staff? Okay, thank you. We'll now go to public comment. We have over, I think, 20 cards or so, or 10 cards. And we have the applicant as well, the applicant appellant. You'll have 5 minutes to speak if you're the applicant or the appellant. And then each of the public will have 1 minute to speak, each person. And I think in that 1 minute, it helps your case if somebody has already stated your points, and to think about how do you make the best use of that 1 minute to probably state something that we haven't heard or hasn't been stated already. That kind of helps overall. So with that, let me go to Tab Johnson. Mr. Johnson, we also have Edward Firestone. You're both the applicants and the appellants. Would you want to go first?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
I'm the applicant, and good afternoon, and thank you for letting us appear here today. We have had continuing discussions with Planning Department and other individuals who are interested in the project, and we would request that we have a 2-week continuance of this to try to solve a couple of issues that seem to be fairly close to solvable, that we may be able to come back with a better plan that will take care of everyone's concerns and obviously make a better project. So at this point, we would ask for the hearing to be continued for the next meeting, I believe, which is in 2 weeks.
Okay. Let me ask Mr. Englander. It's in your district, correct?
Yeah, since we have a lot of folks that are driven a long way and got their shots to come downtown, would ask if they could speak so we get them on the record, and then that way we can continue discussions. I can take in what they've asked for into consideration and then allow the 2 weeks. But since they're here, if we could hear from them, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you. That would
Thank
be
you.
great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Does Mr. Firestone still wish to speak? No? Okay. Chris Sales. After Chris Sales is Linda Dunham.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Chris Sales. I am president of Northridge South Neighborhood Council. Just briefly, just to remind the board that the Neighborhood Council did vote 10 with 1 abstention, I believe, in opposition to the project. I understand the concerns of the neighbors. We do feel, though, that the project is not an appropriate one for the vision of Northridge and the huge amount of traffic that's already generated on that corner. Putting 2 drive-throughs in an area where 4 drive-throughs are already there by right is just asking for gridlock. So we really appreciate the opportunity to have this considered again. We would like you to support the previous finding of the 1 drive-through. We feel that splits the difference in a compromise situation. We don't get what we want. The developer doesn't get what he wants, but we all get a little bit of something. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Linda Dunham. After Linda is Lee Boo Larson.
Hello.
Welcome.
Orchids at University Square, right? Visionary project, catalyst to bring all, these are my own notes, it's a catalyst to bring all good things to a community currently suffering. I think it's a project destined to become an exemplary model for future development. It removes and replaces a vagrancy hotspot with forward-thinking commerce and beautiful amenities. And I will stop there.
Thank you. Lee Boo Larson, and then Don L. Larson.
Good afternoon, and I'm Lee Boo Larson, and I live at the neighborhood of that center there. And I support this subject because this will change the environment around our neighborhood and move the recycle center away from the receiver and make the whole neighborhood cleaner than before. And just now you're talking about that 2-story, 1-story replaced the 2 stories. And that 2-story wooden building now is written, and the top floor is actually vacant, and then no one wants to rent it over there. And when we get the new building up there, the business will be better, and the whole environment will be getting better. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Don Larson, Pete Mackel.
My name is Don Larson. That was my wife. We're here to support this project. I've been part of working on this thing from the beginning with Mr. Johnson, and I just think it's a great thing for our neighborhood. We need this help. We need to make this Northridge vision real for us, and an improvement of this size will be a great asset to our neighborhood. I'm also the one who put in the petition and collected the 150 signatures for this. I did that in the first 2 weeks of December within the target area. As I've said to many people, I had no one in opposition. In fact, the neighborhood within that boundary and around it are overwhelmingly supporting this project. And we just need this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Pete Mackel. After Pete Mackel is Mark Burns.
I'm Pete Mackel. Okay, I'm a resident on Rathburn and basically Rayen. And a couple of months ago, the neighborhood council sent around a petition to be signed to oppose it. I was completely lied to about what was actually going to happen by the person that was gathering the signature. They told me that 2 really cheap drive-thrus were going to go right on Reseda out of the parking lot, and that there was going to be a little bit of remodeling in the shopping center, but nothing. I mean, this is beautiful. This is what we need. That shopping center is an armpit in the valley right now. It needs to change. They're bringing the right idea. They're bringing money to the table. The neighborhood council is not putting any money up. They're not suffering. We need this. It's something that's going to improve the value of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mark Burns, and after Mark Burns is David Broski.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Burns. I'm a resident of Etiwanda Avenue. The main thing about this is everyone loses isn't progress. The issue seems to be coming down to the drive-through, whether it's 1 drive-through or 2 drive-throughs in a corner or an intersection which already has 4 drive-throughs. Is there a mathematical formula that says 5 is the right number, as opposed to 6 or 4? The other thing is the fact that the drive-throughs are actually about 100 yards south of the intersection, as opposed to on the actual intersection there's a McDonald's directly on the corner. Why isn't that being shut down? The neighbourhood requires something. It's a step up from surrounding neighbourhoods, but not by much. The residents of my building and a few others in the neighbourhood have a thing called the Northridge Sparkle campaign, where we literally give up our time and go out on our hands and knees cleaning up the streets, cleaning up debris, trash. That area is just disgusting. It needs to be improved. The buildings are dilapidated and empty. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David Broski. After David Broski is Evan Bleck.
Excuse me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm David Earl Broski. I live at 8819 Etiwanda Avenue, along with Mark and a few of the other people that are here. In all honesty, I don't really care about drive-thrus or anything like that. I'm not a homeowner. I don't even own a car. Traffic does not affect me. But I do walk up and down Reseda Boulevard. I walk through the college. I've met a lot of people up and down Reseda. I go to the Starbucks. That's about a half a mile north of where we live, and it's a nice walk. So I know a lot of people in the neighborhood and in the community. I understand people recycle to get money, and most of the people, well, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of the people that do recycle are homeless. And there's also an element that comes with the recycling. It's drug use and alcoholism. And they do that back in the buildings and in the back where you can't see. And there's women and children that go there to shop, and they don't need to see that. And I think this facelift would really help. These new businesses would help get that element out. So thank you. Sorry to go over.
Great. Thank you. Evan Black, or Bleak, can't make it out. Donald
It's Block. I am a homeowner, and I live at 8900 Darby Avenue, about a block away from the proposed site. I am in favor, just like everybody else, of this plan going through. The Northridge Sparkle team has done a really, really good job of cleaning up Reseda and planting trees, making things look really respectable. But this is the one thing in the area that just really doesn't look good, and it's not something that this team can do anything about. So it would be nice to have that changed. It would bring a lot of good things into the community, and it would just look really, really good, and it would, I think, make everybody a little bit happier knowing that this area has been cleaned up. So, thank you.
Thank you. Donald Poffel or Poffy, can't make that last letter close. Josh Knutson is afterward.
Donnell Poppy, I'm Chair of Planning and Land Use for Northridge South Neighborhood Council. We're happy to see the development. What we're questioning is the use of two drive-ins. It's one of the most busiest intersections in the city. The valley, I mean, it takes you a good half an hour to get out on Reseda Boulevard. Chris last night was telling me that it took him a half an hour to get out on Reseda at 8 p.m. We like to see the development. It's the question of two drive-throughs. I think that the North Valley Area Planning Commission addressed this and made a fair compromise with one drive-through. The tonnage of pollution that's released by one drive-through is enormous. The petition, we had a petition that questioned their petition, so I don't want to get into a numbers game, but the neighborhood council asked the developer to reduce it. He's always stuck to two. He thinks that the only way that he can make this profitable is by two drive-throughs. We ask you to hold the ruling of the North Valley Area Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Josh Knutson.
Hi. My name is Josh Knutson. I live at 8819 Etowanda. I was born in Northridge at the Northridge Hospital. I've been raised there my entire life, walked up and down Reseda for many, many years. The one things that I've seen in the most recent years is I've seen a lot of places across the street being renovated and used and utilized for, new businesses. But the one thing I haven't seen in 26 years is any of those buildings being used, gone into, serve anything else more than pollution with the recycling center there. After 26 years of walking around that city, I think it's about time something changed.
Thank you. That's our final speaker. Mr. Englander, any questions, comments?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it'd be appropriate to grant the applicant, in this case, the 2-week extension in light of a lot of the support and concern and opposition from the community. I want to thank the community again for coming down. I think there could be hopefully some compromises achieved. I think there's one thing that everybody does agree on, that they want it changed. They want the shopping center is tired, and it needs to be brought up to what that community really stands for. But it's got to be a place that attracts people. We've got right across the street from this shopping center, there are 38,000 students that go to school with no place to go. There is a lack of dining. There's a lack of places to hang out and sit at a cafe. It's not, from my perspective and what I've heard from others in the community that couldn't make it here today, it's not just about whether it's one or two drive-throughs. It's this community spent the last several years getting together to write a plan for Northridge, New Vision, working with 3 different neighborhood councils and the Chambers of Commerce, as well as my office and even my predecessor before me when we started writing that plan. And the whole idea is to take these properties along the corridor of Reseda, which is the major gateway into CSUN, and directly adjacent. This is actually a walking distance to the new Performing Arts Center, which is spectacular. But there's no place to just walk around and go. And so it's a matter of doing a project, but doing it right. And I think we're close, but I don't think we're there yet. And it's not a matter of, again, whether if we just removed one of the drive-throughs, and I don't think that, quite frankly, from my perspective, from what I've heard from people, satisfies everybody. I mean, so it's not really just the matter of whether you have Starbucks has a drive-through or not, because that's really what we're talking about. But the idea that there's plenty of pedestrian space that's friendly and inviting outside, that there's a place for cyclists to park, that it's safe and attractive, and for families as well as students and faculty. And I think we can get there. I'm hopeful. It sounds like we've got a willing applicant, a willing community that wants to see a project. Nobody's walked in to say it's too big, it doesn't belong in that space, we don't want to see any change. It's great because we're not hearing that. So while the neighborhood council might have been 11 against, they weren't against the entire project and saying we don't want a project there at all. And so I think that's important for the record. So go ahead, my recommendation would be go ahead and grant the 2-week extension. It would be actually, there's no September meeting for September 3rd, so it would actually be 3 weeks till September 10th.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll move this, we'll continue this item till September 10th, you said?
Great.
Without objection, and thank you. I just want to clarify before people leave, is public hearing closed for that day, or do we still have it open, correct? If people want to testify.
Terry Kaufman, Messiah City Attorney's Office. It's up to you, Council Member. If you want to keep it open, you can, and you can certainly allow people to speak on any new information if you want. It's up to you.
Okay, we'll keep public hearing open for this item. Is that okay with you, Mr. Englund?
We could always limit it if need be and see
Okay.
what changes there are.
Okay, since that was satisfied today, but we'll keep it open. Great, thank you. So we'll continue that to September 10th. Next item, please.
Next item, Councilman, is item 8, which is a CEQA appeal relative to the conversion of 2 structures from office and Sunday school use to residential use in CD 8. And the appeal was filed by Laura Myers.
Okay. Staff here? Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, council members. Ken Bernstein with Department of City Planning and the Office of Historic Resources. We wanted to walk you through some of the history and background of this appeal and the environmental case. I'm joined by 2 of our staff members, Michelle Levy, who's our city planner overseeing the Historic Preservation Overlay Zone HPOZ unit of the department, and Shannon Ryan, one of our HPOZ planners. Shannon will provide some background, and Michelle and I are available for follow-up and questions.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Shannon Ryan with the HPOZ unit. So I'm going to run you through how we got here today. One moment. So the project is at 1342 West Adams. It's on the corner of Adams Boulevard and Menlo Avenue. The Bishop's residence is the primary structure. It was a single-family home that was constructed in 1898, so it's been there for over 100 years. In the 1930s, a church was erected on the adjacent property and was connected to the Bishop's residence with a covered walkway or a cloister. The project deals primarily and only with the Bishop's residence and the accessory structure behind it. The project doesn't go into the church at all. But so you can understand the site, those 3 structures all are connected because of the cloister in the middle between them. So this property, 1342 West Adams Boulevard, is located in the North University Park Specific Plan, which essentially acts like a historic preservation overlay zone. In January, the Director of Planning approved a project. It was a Certificate of Appropriateness, referred to as a COA, and project permit compliance for conversion of 2 structures from office and Sunday school use to residential use, rehabilitation and restoration of the exterior of both structures, addition of new dormers and exterior deck and stairs to the primary structure, the addition of 184 square feet to the second story of the accessory structure, and landscaping, gate, and other side work on the property. So residential units are proposed to go inside the envelope of the bishop's residence, the mansion, and 2 units are proposed for the accessory structure. In February of 2013, the project and CEQA determination were appealed by West Adams Heritage Association on the basis that the project did not meet Secretary of the Interior standards. And the Secretary of the Interior standards are federal standards that are applied to rehabilitation of historic resources. Staff acknowledged that there were some issues with the original determination and the original project as proposed. The applicant took it upon themselves to really modify and revise the project to become a true rehabilitation of these resources. The initial proposal had included demolition of the cloister and removal of some stucco cladding, and they're no longer pursuing demolition of the cloister, and they've really modified the project to be a true rehabilitation. It was brought before the South LA APC in June, and the APC voted unanimously to deny the appeal and to adopt the project as revised, adopt the revised conditions and the revised findings. So we are here today just to look at the CEQA determination that was issued for this project. The project itself is not further appealable after the APC decision. So we're here to look at the categorical exemption that was issued for this project. The main concerns of the appellants in regards to the CEQA is that the revised project does not meet the Secretary of the Interior standards, that the project is being split, and that the interior of the project was not properly analyzed under CEQA. So I'm going to run you through staff's perspective on why we feel a categorical exemption is appropriate in this case. Class 31 of Section 15300 of the state CEQA guidelines says that projects limited to maintenance, repair, stabilization, rehabilitation, restoration, preservation, conservation, or reconstruction of historical resources in a manner that is consistent with Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties, with guidelines for preserving, rehabilitating, restoring, and reconstructing historic buildings are categorically exempt. The revised project consists of maintenance, repair, rehabilitation, and restoration of the primary and accessory structure at 1342 West Adams, which are deemed historic as part of the University Park Historic Resources Survey from 1983. I'll run through quickly how they meet all these. The maintenance work of the project includes replacing the composition shingle roof on the main structure, painting the exterior of the structures, making improvements to the parking area, and updating the landscaping. A 6-foot-high fence that exists currently at the perimeter of the property will be removed and replaced with a 42-inch-high wrought iron fence to code, which was approved by the South Los Angeles Area Planning Commission in the revised conditions of approval. Repair work includes repair of 77 original wood windows on the primary structure, repair of 22 original wood windows on the accessory structure, and you can see Exhibit I for the comprehensive window schedule. The work also includes replacement of 4 windows on the primary structure with similar windows that match the original ones. So the majority of the windows here are being repaired. There are two dormers that are being added to the rear of the structure that will not be visible from the street. One of the proposed dormers will replace an existing skylight. It is not known when the skylight was added to the structure, as it was not identified as a character-defining feature in the Historic Resources Survey. The new dormer, made up of 2 windows, will differentiate itself from the historic dormers in that it is not a copy of the others in size and shape. An existing south-facing dormer on the rear roof is proposed to be expanded horizontally with 3 new windows. This extension is differentiated from the original dormer with an area of stucco and a separate grouping of windows. Both of these dormers will not be visible from the street. Another area of concern by the appellant was the sunroom. What was an open-air porch on the northwest corner of the property was at some point in the property's history enclosed to create more habitable space. Large windows and doors were added to fill in the porch openings to create the sunroom, and the project proposes to retain the enclosed space, but will replace the large windows and doors to adapt the room for a new use. The replacement windows and doors will be in the same locations, but the opening on the west facade will be reduced. The window on the west elevation will be replaced with a new double-hung window to match others on the west facade. Though the porch enclosure is not original to the 1898 structure, the applicant is retaining it as part of the project. On balance, the replacement of the doors and windows in the room will not impact the original character-defining features of the house. So this is a 3-walled structure, and there's only changes happening on the west side. These changes are minor, and as described in detail in the Director of Planning's findings, are proposed in a way that includes slight differentiation to meet the Secretary of the Interior standards. The exterior repairs, therefore, do not adversely impact the significance of the resource. To go on, rehabilitation and restoration work includes rehabilitations of features that were added in 1934, including the front pilasters, stucco cladding, and the structure physically connecting the church to the mansion, the cloister. Furthermore, a pair of leaded glass French doors and windows on the first floor of the east elevation will be retained, as well as 3 leaded glass windows located in the same room on the north elevation. These elements will be restored in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior standards. The project also includes rehabilitation of the accessory structure and a small second-story addition of 184 square feet. The second-story addition is proposed in a way that is discreet and is keeping with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, as discussed in the Director of Planning's findings. This proposed project allows for preservation of the primary and accessory structures at 1342 West Adams through adaptive reuse and rehabilitation in a manner that's consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards and with the North University Park specific plan regulations. The project is a thorough rehabilitation of the exterior of the structures. Any alteration proposed are minor and not visible from Adams Boulevard and will have no adverse impacts on the significance of the property as a historic resource. Just to review, the 1983 survey of 1342 West Adams only includes documentation of the exterior of the structures. No interior features were noted or surveyed, and the property was listed as a contributor based on the integrity of the exterior features. CEQA Section 1506.5b states that substantial adverse change in the significance of any historical resource means physical demolition, destruction, relocation, or alteration of the resource or its immediate surroundings such that the significance of a historical resource would be materially impaired. It goes on to say that the significance of a historic resource is materially impaired when it demolishes or materially alters in an adverse manner those physical characteristics that account for its inclusion in a local register of historical resources. In closing, the project does not materially alter in an adverse manner the physical characteristics which in this case is the exterior character-defining features that account for the inclusion of the 1342 West Adams as a contributor to the North University Park specific plan. As such, the project qualifies for a categorical exemption under CEQA. Furthermore, the project does not satisfy the criteria for exceptions to the application of categorical exemptions. And I'll try and go through this as quickly as possible, highlighting what the exceptions are and how they don't.
We got that in
Okay.
yeah.
And we will. We are entering the findings on the exceptions to the categorical exemptions into the record, and are happy to address that during the Q&A.
Great, thank you. We got a good summary there on the decision on that. Thank you. Any questions for the presentation, or should we? We're going to go into public comment now. Applicant, we have two applicants, Rob Lucian and Paras Bak. Do you wish to? Who wishes to speak first?
Could we hear from the appellant first, or whatever your pleasure
Sure.
is?
That's fine with us. Pardon me? Nobody wants to speak first. Okay. Laura Myers is the appellant. Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Laura Myers. I'm here on behalf of West Adams Heritage Association, representing an organization that has been involved with historic preservation advocacy and land use advocacy for 30 years. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary. We are represented by Council District 1, Mr. Cedillo, Council District 8, Mr. Parks, Council District 9, Mr. Price, and Council District 10, Mr. Wesson, because the historic West Adams District covers a large area. I want to, as quickly as I can, I guess, respond and present the case. So I need to tell you that it is not accurate that this is an adjacent parcel to another adjacent parcel. Current owners and the prior owner, Roger Williams Baptist Church, and Mr. Bishop, it wasn't a bishop's residence, his name happened to be Mr. Bishop, own 7 parcels. They've been in single ownership since the beginning of time. So on that single parcel ownership is a Gothic Revival church sanctuary, a cloister, a mansion, a carriage house, and something called the Beacons Hall, which I'm not even clear exactly what its current use is. It was built as a social hall, gymnasium, and tennis court of some sort. So one of our huge problems is how the project has been defined as only on these lots and not on those lots. But the Beacons Hall building crosses over the lot line and literally physically touches the carriage house, and of course, as does the cloister. So that's one CEQA issue. Sorry. The notion that the only reason we're appealing is that the project did not meet Secretary of Interior standards, that's not the only reason we are appealing. That is a key reason we are appealing. Class 31 also, however, does not cover change of use. This is a change of use to multifamily. And the Secretary of Interior guidelines do not allow a simple change of use to multifamily either. The notion that this is okay to only analyze the exterior because the interior was never described in the 1983 survey, none of that has any pertinency. In 1987, this was certified by the State Office of Historic Preservation as what's called a 3S, eligible for the National Register, and the National Register includes the interior and the exterior. Their jurisdiction as a quasi-HPOZ specific plan is for the exterior, but the categorical exemption, in other words, a CEQA review, has to be for the entire project and is not withstanding or without regard to what their current jurisdiction is on a project that's been applied for. And I'm so sorry. These are not just repairs. They are, even on the windows that are being described as repairs, they're actually fixing in place most of the upper windows. They gutted the building without permits in January, before the director's decision was issued. We've questioned all along why that didn't just halt the case, why they didn't just send it back to the applicant and say, solve your problems with building and safety, you have a substandard now filed against you, and come back to us when you have resolved that. But one of the non-resolved things is the fact they threw away all the window weights on the historic windows, so now they're fixing the top things in place. So my case, which I'm now going to have 1 minute and 11 seconds, the project does not meet Secretary of Interior standards. The project has been split. They have failed to tell us what's going to happen to the Beacons Hall. They have told us in words out loud, but they haven't told you, and they haven't told the planning department, that they're giving the church back to the Roger Williams Baptist Church congregation, but they're giving it back to them without a parking lot, because the parking lot is now being used for the housing. The church congregation will either die for no parking or will be parking in the neighborhood that is already underparked. The project does create cumulatively considerable impacts. If you know anything about the historic West Adams District, the Street of Dreams, the entire Street of Dreams, West Adams, from Figueroa to Crenshaw, used to be all mansions. There's now about 14 left in that section. So we do have a cumulative impact. The South Area Planning Commission abused its discretion when we went before it because they actually failed to allow any discussion whatsoever, gave everybody 1 minute, and then we were done. And as indicated by the analysis on staff's part, they are analyzing these projects privately and not through the use of an initial study. Categorical exemption allows them to do nothing. We need this project analyzed, and I'm sorry I'm not quite done, but you probably want me to be done, correct? All right.
Thank you. You could just wrap it up. That's fine. Thank you.
I may be done?
Yes. Any last thoughts?
I do have a last thought. I'm sorry. We're just concerned. This is a case, if you know anything about HPOZs, conforming work, that's work done to Secretary of Interior standards. That's categorically exempt. This is not a conforming work case. This department, we understand, we sympathize. They have very smaller staff. They don't have time. They are trying to streamline, but they should not be streamlining to exempt cases that are not properly exempted from analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Glushan, would you like to have 5 minutes combined for the owner and the representative, or do you want, is that okay?
Yeah, I may take up all 5. If I do, he won't speak.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Council members, Rob Glushan, I represent the evil guy who is providing jobs and needed housing in the North University Park area for this city. This is a CEQA appeal. What the appellant is probably not telling you on purpose is the 2 discretionary entitlements that were needed here, the certificate of appropriateness and the project permit, are not further appealable. And it's because they're not further appealable that they're using CEQA to get this before you and the City Council. I have substantial experience with CEQA, as your City Attorney knows, and ironically, I'd say about 70 to 80% of the time, I'm actually on the side that the appellant is arguing here today. So if there's a weakness in the CEQA finding, or in this case a categorical exemption, I actually am going to recognize that more than most. And your staff in the planning department and in historic resources, I got to tell you, they did a great job explaining their analysis, but they are tough on applicants. And when there is a doubt on whether or not you can use an exemption or not, that staff is going to resolve that doubt in favor of a full environmental review. And the fact that they have not done that in this case and are standing solidly behind the categorical exemption also ought to mean something to you. This project involves no variances, no adjustments, no deviations from code. We met with the appellant before the hearing, before the APC made its decision. In fact, we probably lost a year in the project in order to meet and to try to address the concerns of the appellant. And generally speaking, there were 2 categories, one exterior, one interior. Virtually all of the exterior, or most of the exterior concerns that they had, this applicant agreed to. So he is keeping the exterior stucco that our own historical consultant says really doesn't even have any historical significance. But the appellants felt it did, and the owner here agreed to keep that. They're retaining and repairing the front pilasters, the exterior stucco, the leaded glass French doors. They're repairing and rehabilitating 77 original wood windows. And there's more to it that's in my letter that's part of the file here. But this is exactly what the categorical exemption was meant for. It was to exempt projects that were in fact providing for a rehabilitation and restoration of a historic resource. Where we disagree, and you don't need to be a CEQA lawyer to understand this, is the exterior, which is before you really, and the interior, which, as staff indicated, it was not part of the 1983 survey, never been identified as historic, was not looked at by the Design Review Board, was not looked at by the Cultural Heritage Commission staff people. The interior that they're concerned about is really not within the city's purview in this type of a case on these matters. So again, we made the best effort we could to try to incorporate all the changes that they wanted. And the last thing I'll say is, I don't know about you guys, I'm used to experts, even conflicting experts, being very self-righteous one way or the other. And in a case like this, we have an expert who did a historic assessment, unequaled by anything the other side has done. They got a consultant, and I'm using the consultant's words, where our consultant said this project meets all of the 10 standards of the Secretary of the Interior. Their consultant, who you'll probably hear from, uses the words may not meet. Not his opinion is it doesn't meet, it may not meet. Further in his report, may be a potential change. You can pay people to say may, could, would, and standards and guidelines are just that. One thing I think that we all agree on, all the experts, is these guidelines and standards are not fixed in concrete. They are evolving, they depend on the circumstances of the case, and where you have a situation here where you've got an adaptive reuse that the appellant's own expert is saying, we concur that a property can be adaptively reused for a different use, and that this proposed project meets standard 1. I couldn't have said it any better myself. We do have Anne Marie Brooks. You may have her card if you have questions of her on the assessment report. Applicant is here to answer questions. Architects are here to answer questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've given 5 minutes to each side. The applicant, you could choose to speak under the 1-minute public speaking area, or was that sufficient for your presentation? Okay, thank you. So now we'll go on with the remainder of the public speakers. We have 1 minute each. Peggy King and then Lawrence Farfarman.
Good afternoon. My name is Peggy King, and I have lived in West Adams for 26 years. I am a homeowner, and I also own an apartment building, which I have not found necessary to gut the interior, in Council District 8. Sorry. Okay. In listening to the staff report, I felt like I was listening to one of those prescription drug commercials where everybody's playing happily. And while someone's telling you, oh, you know what, your head could fall off, you could die of cancer, you could do this, you could do that. They made it sound like such a great rehab project, and it's not a great rehab project. The Secretary of Interior standards, which I'm pretty familiar with because I'm also the chairperson of the Western Heights Historic Preservation Overlay Zone, and I've read the long version of the Secretary of Interior's standards, doesn't say anything about not visible from the street. That's not an issue. They are adding, and they are taking things away. So please, I ask you to support this appeal so that we can look at this from a preservation point of view and not be the city that doesn't care about its historic architecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Loris Farfarman. and then Peyton Hall.
Yes, my name is Lawrence Pfaffman. I'm a resident of Village Green, which is a National Historic Landmark. Now, if the Office of Historic Resources considers interiors to be so important, then how come interiors are so often included in inspection tours of historic properties? Also, I object to the idea that the appellant is misusing CEQA. They are entitled to use whatever means they can to achieve their objectives. Okay.
Thank you. Peyton Hall. Jim Childs.
I'm Peyton Hall. I'm a qualified historic architect. However, I am a volunteer, not a paid consultant. A decision that relies on a finding of meeting the Secretary of the Interior standards may not be sound. And I've been using the word may because we make analysis and recommendations, whereas you and your staff make the findings. I don't think the project meets the standards. I respectfully ask that you reconsider this decision in order to improve the project so that it protects the beautiful historic character of these buildings while revitalizing them. This can be a better project. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Anna Marie Brooks, and then Adrian Scott Fine.
Good afternoon, Jim Childs, Adams Dockweiler Heritage Organizing Committee. The Waha appeal prepared by Ms. Laura Myers documents with great clarity the numerous errors committed by the Planning Department staff in their processing of this case. The most shocking of these egregious blunders was staff's initial failing to review the project in the context of its status as an identified historic resource deemed eligible for the listing on the National Register of Historic Places. The issuance of the categorical exemption was more than a failing to see the context of the subject property, but illustrates a bureaucratic culture that itself is blind, deaf, and dumb to the sensitivity of our historic resources. The staff author of the certificate, Ms. Lamise Ekwara, has been transferred out of the OHR HPOZ unit. This is too little and too late. That her senior administrators, Michelle Levy and Ken Bernstein, who reviewed the document, have failed to act to rescind this senseless error is a tarnish on their credentials and reputations. I ask you to set aside this decision, and I am submitting hard copies that were submitted by email from both Ad hoc and the North University Park Community Association.
Thank you. Is there an Anna Marie Brooks here? Did I call them? Okay. I'm sorry about that. I skipped. Oh, we could, yeah, that's fine. Anna Marie Brooks and then Adrian Scott Fine. Sorry about that.
Hi. I'm the architectural historian who prepared the report for the owner, and I stand by my report that says it meets all of the CEQA requirements, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? No questions right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Adrian Scott Fine, and then Vladimir Tomales.
Good afternoon, Adrian Scott Fine with the Los Angeles Conservancy. The Conservancy shares some of the concerns of the appellant in terms of the use of the categorical exemption and its application in this case. We believe there needs to be more thought and consideration in projects like this example and this type of property in terms of setting precedent and then the implications, broader implications of what this means. Thank you.
Thank you. Vladimir Tomalevsky. They were against. Yes, yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm Vladimir Tomalevsky, LNV Architecture. We designed this project has been more than a year and a half, following all the restriction, regulation, and we have been closely working with Design Review Board as well as the Planning Department. If you have any question.
Thank you. And finally, Noel Paulus from Councilmember Park's Office, Council District 8. Are you here?
council members. My name is Noel Palais. I am with the Office of Council Member Bernard Parks. First off, I definitely want to go ahead and thank WAHA for their vigilance. Through their efforts and dedication, they have clearly demonstrated they are solely acting in the best interest of the community and the neighborhood. On that, also, staff has to be commended for their thoroughness in preparing the report. Finally, we would also like to acknowledge the developer for their willingness to work towards preserving the integrity of the neighborhood. On that, however, they did have a serious lack of judgment by demoing the interior without permits. However, they are working to rectify that with Department of Building and Safety. As was indicated by staff, they are rehabbing and restoring probably close to 85%, if not more, on the property. And because of that, we do not oppose staff's recommendation to deny the appeal. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, your last?
We do not oppose staff's recommendation to deny the appeal.
You do not oppose
We do not
staff
oppose.
recommendation to deny the appeal? Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions? Any questions? No. If I could ask staff to come up, please, from planning staff. Now, an issue was raised by the appellants that this is not the proper way for the conforming exemption. Any comment on that, on their main point?
I think, again, Ken Bernstein with Department of City Planning. I think the point that was raised by one of the speakers was that a categorical exemption as a CEQA appeal is inappropriate for certificate of appropriateness cases as opposed to what are called conforming work cases, the more minor approvals in our HPOZs. In this case, this is a specific plan that operates like an HPOZ. That, from staff's perspective, is not an accurate statement. It is quite common, in fact. Most of our certificate of appropriateness cases in our HPOZs are cleared by a categorical exemption, and the reason for that is, it speaks to some of the issues in this case, which is that the categorical exemption that applies is typically the exemption for projects that meet the Secretary of the Interior standards. If we as staff are going to approve a project for certificate of appropriateness, we need to confirm that it is a project that meets the standards and meets our preservation plans in the HPOZ. So commonly we do approve these certificate cases using that specific categorical exemption as in this case.
Okay, great, thank you. That was my only question, so you stand by that process. If there are no other questions, given that the staff has stood by the report and asked that we deny the CEQA appeal, and also the local council member has also asked that we deny the CEQA appeal, I'll move to deny the CEQA appeal and sustain the South Area Planning Commission decision, and on the basis as set forth by the planning staff report. Any
And adopt the expanded findings that were submitted at today's meetings, Council.
and adopt the expanded findings as submitted by the planning department today. Okay. Any objection to that? So no objection, so ordered. Great. Thank you. Next item, please.
Public comment, Council.
No public comment cards. With no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.